All right, folks, coming up on Roland Unfiltered for Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. Donald Trump gives his State of the Union address tonight, but members of Congress are already reacting to it. We pretty much know what the hell he's going to say. We'll hear from Congresswoman Karen Bass, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and also Ayanna Pressley, new member of Congress from Massachusetts, and Brenda Lawrence of Michigan will join us live. More drama in Virginia as blackface shamed Governor Northam hires a private eye to try and figure who is in those racist pictures. I wonder if it's going to be the same folks that OJ and Donald Trump hired. Also, the woman accusing Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax of sexual assault has hired the same D.C. law firm represented Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. We have those details. Actor Liam Neeson confessed to trying to kill a black man in revenge for his white female friend being raped. I'll break down to you why that's very familiar to black folks in America. Also, updates on 2 legally armed black men being killed in seconds by police officers. One of those cops was cleared in Alabama. His mother speaks out, and we'll talk with attorney Ben Crump. We'll also take a look at a school district in Michigan that's being sued for having a racist environment all over its school system. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, Donald Trump finally gives his State of the Union address tonight. Remember, it was supposed to be in January. It got postponed because of the federal government shutdown. It will actually take place tonight. But what's going to be interesting, of course, is that we'll see how Democrats will respond. Already, his folks are saying that he's going to be reaching out to Democrats. Well, you kind of have to after he got embarrassed by Speaker Nancy Pelosi during that federal government shutdown. Now, Congressman John Lewis and Hank Johnson, both of Georgia, and Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee, say they are boycotting the speech. Stacey Abrams will deliver the Democrats' response, and of course, we'll be streaming that speech on my YouTube page, which of course you can see at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And of course, if you're checking us out, be sure to subscribe and turn on your live notifications. Now, earlier today, a group of Democratic congresswomen held their own event called the State of Our Union. It was organized by Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence of Michigan, and she joins us right now. So, Congresswoman Lawrence, why exactly did you want to have this event prior to tonight's speech by Donald Trump?
Hello, Martin. I wanted you to know that I am the chair of the Women's Caucus for the 116th Congress representing the Democratic Party. And there are so many issues that are confronting women in America. We are 50% of the population. We're only 25% of the voice of Congress. Martin, when it comes to issues for women in healthcare, do you realize that we are the largest country in the world that are losing women to childbirth? We are actually going backwards. When it comes to equal pay, women throughout their lives who are paid at a lower rate than a man, even in retirement. And when we talk about these issues, we have talked so much about the right to work in an environment that's free of sexual harassment. These are issues that don't normally come to the forefront. And we're going to be fighting for those issues.
Talk about those various issues. I mean, obviously, a significant number of Democratic women, but you also have Republicans, very interesting. They have the same number of women on the House side they did a decade ago. And so when it comes to the parties, it seems that one seems to be more interested in electing women than the other.
You know, I've had that conversation with the women on the Republican side. They're embarrassed, and they are really working hard and have actually put together a group just to recruit women to run for their party. But in addition to getting women to run for their party, they need to do some self-examination. Are you the party that actually speak and fight for rights of women? And if you're not, then this is your wake-up call. There's only 13 women on the Republican side versus 96 on the Democratic side.
And so what is the next step when it comes to policies? I mean, so news conference is one thing, but policies and laws is another.
Absolutely. So we will be passing the Equal Rights Amendment. We will be passing the Fair Wage Act, which requires companies to disclose the salaries of their workers. So often you'll see women working side by side in minorities with others, and they're paid at a lower rate doing the same work. Requiring those who have federal contracts and those in the federal government to disclose those salaries is one thing. The other thing is to make sure that we have in law the Equal Rights Amendment that we have been struggling with. People say that we should have equal rights, but it should be part of the law. And so we're very excited about that. We've been on this journey for a long time. The other thing is domestic violence rights. What are women's rights when it comes to domestic violence? You know, we have women sitting in prison who time after time again have reported assault, have been hospitalized. And when it gets to that point, a woman retaliates. I've seen women sitting in prison who have been held hostage as a result of domestic violence. That's going to be something that you see we take up. And then in healthcare, women and our health issues are unique. So things like paid maternity leave. You know, we need to talk about poverty when it comes to women. The largest group in America, when we look at poverty and put everyone who's in poverty together, the number one demographics of poverty are women, head of households with children. And so if we are really serious about reducing poverty in America, we're going to have to talk about educating women, talk about jobs, talk about providing tax credits and support for child care. A single woman, head of household with children, 60% of her pay goes for child care.
All right, Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, and again, that news conference was held a little bit earlier, and so right now we want to hear from a couple of those women. First off, Congresswoman Karen Bass. She is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and then next, Ayanna Pressley, of course, a new member from Massachusetts.
So I'm here to talk about the state of black women in this country. So the state of our pay is unequal. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, black women in the United States are typically paid 61 cents for every dollar paid to a white man. But instead of creating job programs or investing in raising wages, what does the Trump administration do about it? He signs a tax scam guaranteed to benefit only the richest Americans with a recycled promise of trickle-down that we've been waiting on since the 1980s. The state of our health is not well. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to experience a pregnancy-related death. The percentage of black women that die in childbirth is higher than most developed countries, if not any developed country on the planet. We're more likely to have heart disease or diabetes as well. But instead of investing in our health, what does the Trump administration do about it? Not only did he push a bill to take away health coverage from millions of Americans, he continues to try to sabotage the Affordable Care Act via death by a million cuts. The state of our freedom is under attack. The incarceration rate for black women has increased 800% over the last 20 years. At every level, how women get involved in the criminal justice system, what happens to them while they're incarcerated, and what happens when they get out Our criminal justice system lags behind in modernizing and humanizing the way it treats all women, but especially black women, given the disproportionate numbers. The state of our pay, the state of our health, and the state of our freedom, unfortunately, there's not much good news. But the state of our voice. The state of our voice is powerful. The administration saw it in November 2017 when Alabama took Doug Jones to Washington, D.C. The senator from Alabama was elected because of the support of black women. The administration saw it in November of 2018 when we took back the House and watched history made as the first and second time a woman in the House of Representatives was Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And you know what? He hasn't figured out how to deal with that situation at all. But the power of our voice is clear. We will hear the power tonight. The woman I believe was elected as the governor of Georgia when she delivers her inspirational message, Stacey Abrams. We know that the administration will not be able to resist an attack afterwards. He attacks because basically he's afraid of the power of our voice. But whenever we are faced with attacks, we know that still we will rise. Thank you.
Tonight, we expect the occupant of the White House to utter the customary phrase, "The state of our union is strong." If that is true, it has little to do with the Trump administration. If our union is strong, it is because of its resilient people who have succeeded in spite of, not because of, the actions of this administration. If our union is strong, it is because of the people who have endured, who have sacrificed, who have mobilized and organized to fight for our fundamental human rights. If the state of our union is strong, it is because of dreamers like my guest for tonight's State of the Union, Stephanie from East Boston, who refuses to allow her future or her family to become bargaining chips. She is a dreamer, her father is an asylum seeker, and her mother is a TPS holder. Stephanie bravely stands up against this hate wall and the emboldening of rogue agencies with racist policies. She is standing up on behalf of her family and her entire community. If our union is strong, it is because of mothers like Sabrina Fulton, who know the unimaginable pain of a gun stealing their child's life. A child like 17-year-old Trayvon, who would have celebrated his 24th birthday today. Women like Sabrina Fulton and Lucy McBath, who are fighting every day to ensure that not one more parent knows the harrowing loss of gun violence and racial profiling. If the state of our union is strong, it is because of survivors of sexual assault, who, when we were faced with forces that tried to silence us, we marched, we rallied, and we built our own megaphones. If the state of our union is strong, it is because of the disability advocates who put their bodies on the line fighting for healthcare justice. Today, we fortify ourselves with a vision of what is possible, policy anchored in community and crafted by those most impacted. Each of the women standing here today represents hundreds and thousands more. We walk through this life not just as individuals, but carrying all those we have loved, we have lost, and who have shaped us. Together we assert that no one should go bankrupt while fighting for their lives. We can have Medicare for all. We can act with urgency to save our planet, to enact a Green New Deal. Every person deserves a good job and a livable future. We can tackle the growing maternal mortality and female incarceration rates for Black women. Together, we will address the staggering student debt that is crippling dreams and choking at the full promise of our nation. Together, we can actualize our commitment to fair pay for fair work and provide back pay to our contract workers crippled by the shutdown and the pay that they deserve. Together, we can end the public health crisis of gun violence that is claiming lives on city blocks, at schools, and in our faith houses. We have the conviction, we have the political courage, we have the women we need to lead us through this pivotal moment in our nation's history. We have each other, and we are the majority.
All right, folks, let's go to our panel. Jessica Fulton, Economic Policy Director for the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. Malik Abdul, Republican Communications Consultant. Teresa Lundy, Founder, TML Communications. Now, Obviously, everybody's talking about Donald Trump. I was going to be reaching out to Democrats. Okay, his State of the Union speech, these are typical. What do you expect tonight?
I'm really expecting for him to double down on this statement he's been making about how America has been better for black folks since he got into office. I think that's something that he has not actually shown to us, and I think that we need to look for Stacey Abrams to kind of rebut that in her comments later.
Yeah, I think we're going to get some, he's going to reach across the aisle in some ways. What I would like to hear is what he offered as far as DACA. I would like to hear more of that. From what I'm hearing, even on television, it's not going to be a combative sort of State of the Union, which is what I prefer. Of course, it's all, for the cameras, the whole standing up, sitting down. We're going to expect more of that. We're looking forward to Stacey Abrams. It's not as historic as, some other things, but, I'm looking forward to that. But, it's going to be a run-of-the-mill state of,
Teresa, him giving a speech trying to reach across the aisle is irrelevant when you look at what just took place with this shutdown.
Exactly. So what I expect, and many of the blogs were saying earlier today, that Donald Trump is going to talk about Donald Trump. He's going to talk about his accomplishments, all before he gets to his beloved wall. And we just need to be honest. Now, I don't know the way he's going to talk about that wall, or steel, or fence, or brick, but we're going to talk about it in some way. But again, I would love to see if, we can kind of round up that statement and probably begin to start to heal the country outside of just talking about what he's done and why you need to keep me in office. And,
and to your point, one of the things that we were told before the shutdown, the idea is that we need to open up the federal government in order to get the negotiations going. So I don't know to what extent the negotiations have been going that well. From what I'm hearing from Nancy Pelosi, her answer is still no.
Correct.
But as I've said on the show before, slat, wall, whatever it is that you want to call it, we're talking about border security. So however people want to characterize that or phrase it, the wall has become a symbol, if you will, kind of like as the Republicans are for amnesty. Anything that smells like it could be amnesty. I think that's where we are now with the wall, that anything that seems like a wall, Democrats are against. But they do agree that they're for border security.
You got dude early talking about, okay, it's going to be a human wall. I mean, he's sticking wall to anything.
Yeah,
right.
That's nonsense. Yeah, that's not going to be any sort of, human wall. It's going to be a steel slat, whatever it is. And what I'm hearing is that they're a bipartisan group. They're working with border officials to actually see what it is that they want and identify the locations that they want those in. And I think that's the approach that we should be doing.
I think that's a little too far off. So, those conversations I feel like should have happened earlier, as we were even constituting what that $5.7
before we shut
looked
down.
like.
Yeah.
Before we shut down and as we put that budget together. So, kind of going into it tonight, I think we're kind of going to hear the same thing. And I think he actually might bring up the furlong, but I'm not sure.
Well, Jessica, well, for one, they're also saying that, okay, he's not going to call for this national emergency.
Right.
Okay, it's also kind of hard when you're the idiot who tweets out how border crossings are down. You're kind of defeating your own point that there's this big emergency.
Right, and so what we really need to pay attention to is, as you said, if what we want is actual border security, that doesn't necessarily mean a wall, right? Like what we've seen is that we have evidence that this wall will not work in the way that he's talking about it. And so I think we need to think about it that way.
Of course, also on tonight is always a big thing. Members of Congress, they invite different individuals to watch the speech. Well, of course, Iowa Congressman Steve King, he, of course, had to say who he's going to invite. So we went ahead and just going to name him the Stuck on Stupid Person of the Week. Roll it.
Stupid!
Okay. So you only get one ticket, okay? So this is the guy who has no committee assignments. So he decided to invite the minstrel show, Diamond and Silk. This is what he live tweeted. Having only one ticket, I invited one of the two guests for the State of the Union tonight, Lynette Hardaway and Rochelle Richardson, otherwise known as Diamond and Silk. Diamond won the coin toss. Both will be my guest speakers at COS in the morning.
I don't accept the characterization of them as a minstrel.
They are a minstrel show.
Malik, I don't think
you know they're not even real Republicans. They are a minstrel show.
But I don't think that they're a minstrel show because they're entertainers.
No, they're not entertainers.
I think they're entertainers.
Have you ever interviewed them?
No,
I have twice. They are a minstrel show.
I don't agree with any characterizations as minstrel shows. You know, just of black people generally.
Okay, but if you're black people and you're performing a minstrel show, I'm going to call you a minstrel show.
I don't think that they're performing a minstrel show, but to your point, you know, I'm more interested in, I think, is it Matthew Charles? Matthew Charles is the guy who, as one of the first inmates who was released from the First Step Act. You know, I'm more interested in people like
but that's my point, Teresa.
We can't take Steve King seriously.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Those are real people. And here you got a guy who got slapped down for praising white supremacists.
Correct.
What does he go do? Ooh, let me go find two of the
black people. That's what he did.
A minstrel show.
Supporters, who actually flipped a coin and decided, you know, they're going to show up, probably with their better half on FaceTime. So I'm not a fan of them. They came to Philadelphia a few months ago, and that's the first time I've heard somebody coin them as a minstrel show, but I can actually probably say that's really what it was at the hotel, and I was just like, bruh, we got to do better. Yeah. You know, because the audience wasn't African-American centered. It was, you know, white, you know, in a black neighborhood. I was very...
It's a minstrel show. Simple as that. Just call it what it is, and that's exactly what they are. All right, folks, got to go to a break right now. When we come back, I'm going to talk Liam Neeson, and he made some quite interesting comments about hunting down black people. But black folks in America, we're quite familiar with white men losing their damn minds. We'll break that down next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, of course, many of us in 2019 want to get healthy and get fit as much as we want to. Of course, for me, the whole focus is getting a golf game, getting a handicap down to a 2, which means improving the core, losing weight, and being able to, of course, pick up 10, 15 yards. Now, if you want to make a difference in doing so, one of the ways is to try the D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse. Now, I just finished their cleanse about a week ago, dropped about 18 pounds. And, of course, for some people, they've lost as many as 20 pounds as well. And, of course, us coming out of the holidays, we talk about excessive eating, processed foods, fried foods, things along those lines. Folks trying to get that out of their body. Now, of course, your body needs to recover, and the Full Body Cleanse will help you get rid of the toxic buildup. It will not only drag you down, but can be very dangerous if you don't do anything about it. Now, if you want to go ahead and try it, if you want to lose those 7 pounds, go right now and go to deherbs.com, DHERBS.com. Use the promo code ROLAND for a discount at the checkout. The number to call is 866-4DHERBS, 866-4DHERBS. It's 866-4DHERBS, and the promo code is ROLAND. Okay? They're certainly one of our D-Herbs, one of our partners, and we thank them for supporting Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, folks, still lots of drama in the Virginia state capitol. Governor Ralph Northam, the man who had trouble remembering if he had ever posed in blackface or wore KKK robes and a hood, has still not resigned over these pictures. Now, there are virtually no Democratic politicians in Virginia or in the country who are supporting him, but he is still trying to find a way out. The New York Times reports he's hired a private investigator. Okay, remember when OJ hired a private investigator? Remember Donald Trump hired a private investigator looking into Obama's birth certificate? Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so clearly he is not trying to resign. Now, the man who would replace Northam, if he does resign, is Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. He now has an issue because yesterday we heard him categorically deny an anonymous accusation of sexual assault at the Democratic National Convention in 2004. Today, the woman, a researcher at Stanford University, has hired Katz, Marshall & Banks, a law firm that lists sexual harassment law as one of its areas of expertise. They represented Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, the woman who accused Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexually assaulting her. Now, the timing of this accusation is suspicious, to say the least, just as this young brother could become governor. But, true or false, this could go on for a while. I want to go to our panel real quick here. Teresa, so in Lieutenant Governor Fairfax's statement, he said that this woman went to the Washington Post a year ago. They looked into it, investigated, never did a story.
Right.
Then what happens is this weekend, she sends a private note to a friend, who then gives it to the website that posted the photos of Northam. And then now she's hiring the law firm. What do you make of what is happening with this case and Justin Fairfax?
Conspiracy. They see that there's an opportunity for Justin Fairfax to take his rightful place as governor. And I think this is, don't look at me like that, Roland.
No, I'm just looking at you.
To take his rightful place as a governor. And I think this is one of the opportunities where they're saying that there's going to be some obstacles for him to get there. When you can't, and this is unfortunately the trend with the Me Too movement. I have 5 brothers, you know, so I'm very sympathetic to them, also sympathetic to the victims, especially the women, but more so what the climate is today, where we can just kind of go and make an accusation without pure facts, and then not have a real follow-up or follow-through of actual justice being served. So for me, you know, I think we need to do a further investigation on the one that received an that went to go get an investigator from the investigative firm, and actually try to prowl that out.
Now, in the case, what happened in the case here, she says it took place in 2004, the Democratic National Convention, and that she never said anything in all these years. Now, he ran for state attorney general and lost, and nothing came out. When he ran for lieutenant governor, nothing came out. But now it comes out. What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, this is Kavanaugh all over again, where what we said is that the accuser deserved to be believed, not just heard, but believed. And so if we, you know, I feel the same way about this situation as I feel about Kavanaugh. I don't think that it is healthy for us to live in a climate where we can make these type of accusations unsubstantiated. Sure, the Washington Post decided not to, you know, the Washington Post didn't find anything, but this is similar to Kavanaugh. You know, no one found anything with Christine Blasey Ford. No one found anything there, but it became a story. And I think this is the sort of tit for tat. You're going to have a lot of people who will say, you know, they're very concerned now. We're really concerned about that Fairfax could have done these sort of things, but it's more so political. It's the get back. It's like, well, remember what you did to us, and now we're going to do the same thing to you. You know, yes, Fairfax. I'm surprised. How is it that Northam, no one knew about the yearbook photo throughout his...
So interesting.
Since 1984.
We need to talk further about where the medical school he went to, because
and that he didn't remember when he...
How do you not
which
remember?
blackface time was I in the yearbook photo or not?
And I just had a little shoe polish, and you heard his explanation. Well, so, you know, if you know that shoe polish, it doesn't really come off. So I just put a little shoe polish, and I danced as Michael Jackson, and I won because I did the moonwalk. Bruh. Come on now. I mean, and so we have to look at these sort of things. That's why my position when these things happen with Republicans is generally, okay, well, let's just hold back for a minute, because I refuse to believe that these people have come, you know, they've arrived at their respective, you know, places, you know, places in career, and nothing like this has come out before.
I think I would love to see a Governor Justin Fairfax as well, right? But I think we really need to be cautious in how we think about how we talk about women who come forward with these kinds of accusations. I think those are very serious things, and I don't think that people generally do this because you're not elevated as a woman because you come out and say that somebody did something like this to you, right? And so we just have to be mindful of that.
Especially black women.
Especially black women, right? And so we just need to be mindful of that. That said, we do know that Governor Northam wore blackface at some point in his life and felt like that was something that was normal for Virginians at that time.
Next to somebody with a white hood. And so, and the problem that I have with the story is that I think what I heard is that someone who attended the school, they were so bothered, they were so offended by his comments around abortion that then they decided to, they're so offended by abortion that they decided to leak it now, as opposed to, it wasn't offensive
not
then.
the issue itself, but because it's abortion comments.
Right.
Right. That gives a real
He
indication
could be
of
racist. Oh, that's fine.
That's right.
Right.
But
Just not
abortion.
it.
No.
shows us their priority.
Right.
Gotcha. All right, folks. Let's talk about this next story. Now, when actor Liam Neeson admitted during a recent interview while promoting a new movie that he once went looking for an anonymous black man to kill as a way of seeking revenge for a white female friend of his being raped, it shocked the sensibilities of some. But all Liam was doing was revealing what has been the white man's longtime rage, protecting his precious white woman from those savage black brutes. It is the story of the black man in America. Now, in the interview, Liam said that once his friend revealed the rape and the man's skin color, for several days, he walked the streets looking for a black man, any black man, to approach him. And if that happened, he was ready to pounce, taking out his anger on any black man to serve as proxy for raping his friend.
And it took me a week, maybe a week and a half to kind of go for that. And she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm just going out for a walk, you know." She said, "What's wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong, fine."
Now, he offered a further explanation.
And I come from a society, I grew up in Northern Ireland in the Troubles, and I knew a couple of guys that died on hunger strike, and I had acquaintances that were very caught up in the Troubles. And I understand that need for revenge, but it just leads to more revenge and more killing and more killing. And, you know, Ireland, Northern Ireland is proof of that, you know. All the stuff that's happening in the world at the minute, the violence is proof of that, you know. So it's, but that's, yeah, primal need, I understand, you know.
Now, folks, Tuesday in an interview on Good Morning America, Robin Roberts asked him about the controversy. Quote, "I'm not racist. This was nearly 40 years ago." Sorry, Liam, you don't get off that easy. The reason why I can't just easily brush off Liam's racial revenge story is that our history is filled with similar stories. White woman cries rape, and black men pay the ultimate price at the hands of the Liam Neesons of the world. If you take a tour throughout history, one of the great reasons for racial separation was the fear of miscegenation. Whites and blacks having interracial babies. Now, some of the most hateful and vile speeches and writings by politicians, journalists, and other white men in the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s was the fear of their precious white women being violated by black men. The thought of black men touching their pristine white women drove these white men mad, leading to acts of brutality against many across the country. The image you see right here is Jesse Washington. Now, in 1916, Jesse Washington was a black teenager working in Texas. He was accused of raping and murdering the white wife of the man whose farm he worked at. Once convicted, the trial, first of all, lasted an hour, and the jury deliberated for 4 minutes. He was dragged from the courthouse and lynched in Waco, Texas. His body was burned, and his remains were dragged through the town, body parts sold as souvenirs. 1921, the Tulsa race riot, legendary because of what was known as Black Wall Street, an area of Greenwood, Oklahoma, where numerous black-owned businesses thrived. When a black man was accused of raping a 17-year-old white woman, white men went on a rampage, leading to the deaths of nearly 300 black folks, more than 6,000 injured. The 35-block area that was considered the wealthiest black community in America was totally wiped out. The Oklahoma Commission that studied the Tulsa race riot of 1921 determined that the city conspired with the white rioters and were responsible for the destruction. But Oklahoma has refused to pay reparations to the descendants of the Tulsa race riot. Many of us know about the Rosewood Massacre because of the 1997 film directed by John Singleton starring Ving Rhames and Don Cheadle. In 1923, the all-black town was destroyed by a mob of white men after a white woman in a nearby town was beaten and supposedly raped by a black drifter. The charges were never proven, but that was enough for white men to terrorize the black residents of Rosewood. The entire town was torched, and no one was ever arrested. Rosewood was never inhabited again. The story of the famous Scottsboro Boys riveted the world. In 1939, 9 black teenagers were falsely accused of raping 2 white women. Their legal fight, which attracted international attention, was intense, leading to numerous appeals and led to 2 Supreme Court decisions. Those men went in and out of prison. Several were later granted parole. One of them also spent a significant amount of time in prison and died. They, folks, were innocent of raping a white woman. In 1949, in Roland, Florida, 4 black men were accused of raping a white woman. 3 of the men were imprisoned and beaten before trial. 1 was hunted down and shot and killed before he was even charged. An all-white jury sentenced 1 of the men to life in prison and 2 to death. When the Supreme Court ordered a retrial for the 2 given death sentences, the sheriff drove the 2 to a field and shot them both. 1 of them died. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis last month granted posthumous pardons to all 4 men. The woman who said the 4 raped them, Norma Paget, who is now 86, testified and still contends the 4 men did it. Folks, there are far more stories I could cite where accusations of rape by black men against white women led to massive violence and death of black people. Now, someone may suggest that Liam should get a break because what he described happened 40 years ago, and he never acted on those racial fears. But folks, we're still dealing with this evil. The brutal rape of a white woman in 1989 set off racial tensions in New York City that rivaled those of the early 20th century. The viciousness against the 5 juveniles arrested for the crime set off hate-filled talk in newspapers, on talk radio, and television. You might call them the Central Park 5. Even Donald Trump got in on the act, taking out full-page ads in New York City newspapers saying the 4 black men and 1 Latino arrested should get the death penalty. Even though the men were exonerated after they went to prison, Trump, to this day, has refused to apologize to the Central Park 5. You may say, well, that was 1989. Okay. When Dylann Roof walked into a black church in Charleston, South Carolina, and killed 9 black people at a Bible study, his white male fear was one of the reasons. This is what Dylann Roof told FBI agents to explain the terror. Quote, well, I had to do it because somebody had to do something because, you know, black people are killing white people every day on the streets, and they rape white women, 100 white women a day. The fact of the matter is what I did is so minuscule to what they're doing to white people every day, all the time. The terror that white men have unleashed on black men over the course of America's history has been devastating. Never mind the centuries black women were raped at will by their white slave masters during slavery. Black people have never responded with the kind of widespread violence in retribution for what white folks did to black women. The few slave rebellions were all stopped, and black men like Nat Turner were murdered and dismembered. Folks, Liam Neeson is no hero because he sought to avenge his white friend's rape. He was more than willing to take the life of a black man, any black man, to serve as his way of exacting revenge. What was deep inside of him is not rare. He is just like many white men who came before him. I'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, now a message from one of our partners. Are you desperate for a good night's sleep? Then listen up. Studies, Teresa's like, yeah, I am. Studies show lack of sleep causes stress, irritability, weight gain, and even death. But you already know how bad it is when you don't get enough sleep, don't you? You try sleeping pills with their annoying and potentially dangerous side effects. Trust me, I understand. Now, maybe if you wasted money on the latest miracle pillow that promises a good night's sleep. Have any of those worked? If not, this might be a solution. It's convenient, inexpensive, has zero side effects, and it's flat out work. So if you want to experience deep, restful sleep, start tonight. Visit www.sleepmusic.com. Now, very interesting. This weird little known trick is already helping thousands of people around the world experience better sleep, deeper rest, and happier mornings. And with a full 90-day money-back satisfaction guarantee, what have you got to lose? And simply visit sleepmusic.com to see how this amazing sleep solution can help you. Do me a favor, use the promo code RADIO to get $10 off. That's www.sleepmusic.com. Use the promo code RADIO to get $10 off. All right, folks, let's go to this story out of Alabama. Listen to these words. The officer reasonably exercised his official powers, duties, or functions when he shot. Those are the words from the official report of the Alabama Attorney General clearing the cop who shot and killed E.J. Bradford Jr. And the killing took place on Thanksgiving night at a mall outside of Birmingham. And here's what we know. There was a man firing shots at the mall, but the man was not Bradford. Bradford, who was licensed to carry a firearm, ran toward the shooter. That's when the cop, without so much as warning, shot him dead. And according to an independent autopsy, shot him in the back. E.J. Bradford's mother had this message for Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall.
Attorney, I want to know if that was your child. Would you consider this justice? Would anybody consider this justice? You shoot my child 3 times and y'all call that justice.
I mean, 3 times in the back.
You put yourself in this situation and tell me how you would feel. Because as a mother who carried this child in her stomach, I want to know how you would feel. I just want to know how you would feel if this was your child.
You're a punk.
Are we really equal? Is the Constitution really for real? Do we really abide by the Constitution? Or does the color of your skin determine it?
It determines it. Yeah.
The Bible says there's no difference between Jews or Greeks or anybody. When Jesus died, he died for us all. So maybe we need to revisit the Constitution.
All right, folks, going to my panel right now. Now, what was strange here was the Alabama Attorney General removed the case from the black DA there in Birmingham because there was a photo the black DA had taken with one of the activists who was protesting this case. Yet the same black activist was in a photo with the Alabama Attorney General. And for Ben Crump and others, they say that it is shameful that why did the Alabama Attorney General step in and remove this case from that black DA, and now we have the result of the Alabama Attorney General.
I can't imagine what what his mother is going through right now. And I think, she really speaks to what I think a lot of people are thinking. Like, she did not see justice. She is not seeing justice. And so I think, yeah, that's an issue.
And so we see this time and time again, whether it's Tamir Rice, whether it's Trayvon Martin, whether it's Mike Brown. Actually, if you guys,
Trayvon Martin wasn't a cop.
Right, it wasn't a cop.
Go ahead.
My point is talking about how black men are viewed. So he was viewed as a threat. The 12-year-old Tamir Rice was viewed as a threat.
Yep.
Mike Brown, if you guys don't remember, the cop described, I think it was Darren Wilson, described Mike Brown as he was bulking up, as if he was getting ready to run through bullets. So so we know this type of, even if we go back to the super predator of the 1990s, these black people are generally seen as threats. And so this is what we're talking about here. In Birmingham, I will say that this particular mall, and I've had this conversation with people just describing, so this mall in Birmingham, the Galleria, it was full of black people. And we do know that there were a lot of people, the reports were that there were a lot of people that actually were carrying inside. And that's how the situation happened with the guy here, that there were a lot of people running with guns inside the mall. So I do want to say that...
Well, no. I haven't seen reports that there were a number of people with guns drawn.
Well, I don't know if it was drawn, but I do know that there were definitely reports that there were a number of people there actually with guns.
You mean the population, like the
inside the mall?
Okay, not the police.
I'm sorry.
I have not seen that. But again, Teresa, to have an officer on the scene, not yell a word, not officers put the gun down. No, this cop immediately started shooting.
The fear of the FOP is damaging to African Americans as a whole, and it has been since the beginning of time. If we're talking about any type of reform, look, I am all for the criminal justice system, but we really have to take a look at our policing, but also reforming the department. And I think they've tried to make, and I'm talking about different counties and different cities have tried to make reforms in the department, but they do it very slightly by putting an African American at the head, right? But not really reforming some of the policies within it. And thus, we still have some of these brand new police officers in these counties that are still afraid. I mean, they went through the training of how to protect yourself.
Right.
But they didn't go through the sensitivity training on how to protect the body as a whole and not just see African Americans as just, something, they'll get over it, or just see them as not so much of a person.
Yeah.
Right? So holistically, if there's any type of legislation, any type of bill that needs to come from any of our African American leaders, I would say we need to do something that has to do with policing within the police department.
Yeah, and all of the stuff that we're talking, well, I won't say a lot of it, but I imagine that a number of things that we're talking about here is implicit bias.
Absolutely.
So how do you legislate that? How do you really address that? Because I do think that that's at the heart of a lot of this. Where it's an assumption.
Well, we have to come at their money. There's still officers and who are still collecting pensions after shooting and killing young boys and young women.
We even have juries. We have juries who hear these cases. And I don't know if that was the case with Tamir Rice. I can't remember. But we have juries who hear these cases.
In the case of Tamir Rice, same problem. Tim McGinty, that DA, essentially acted as a defense for these cops. Took it to the grand jury. No indictment from the grand jury. Okay. That was one of the reasons why he got his ass thrown out in the Democratic primary in the next election.
Okay.
Same thing happened to Bob McCulloch in the Michael Brown case. His butt got thrown out by Wesley Bell in the most recent campaign. But the issue that you have here is having the Attorney General step in and remove this case from the black district attorney solely because of a photo he took with an activist
that he was also pictured
when the same activist was in a photo with the white attorney general. We finally got Ben Krupp on the phone here. So Ben, Just what do you make of this Attorney General? This was the one thing folks feared by him removing the case from the black DA, that he pretty much was guaranteeing this cop would not get indicted.
That's exactly right, Roland. I'm here with E.J. Bradford's family and supporters outside the Hoover, Alabama City Hall, and they are announcing that there's going to be a state of the union tomorrow at the Attorney General Steve Marshall's office in Montgomery, Alabama, because I've never seen disrespect like this, Roland. And, you know, we've been on some battles over the years, but this Attorney General did not even have the respect to talk to the family on the telephone once, not much less to meet with the family today when he announced this decision. And on top of all of that, Roland, he released the report and the videos that he wanted to release. We still haven't got all the videos released yet, but he released it to the media before he released it to the family. So since he didn't have the decency and the respect to come and see the family in Birmingham, Alabama, the family and all the supporters and protesters are going to see him tomorrow at his office and show him the same respect that they gave them in the community when he usurped the authority and took it away from the first elected African-American DA. And as E.J. Bradford's father said, it was because it was an orchestrated cover-up. And he was going to do this all along. Everything in that video is just his version of trying to sanitize the unnecessary and excessive use of force they used to kill E.J. Bradford Jr., who was shot 3 times. And when you look in that video, Roland, there is nothing that E.J. Bradford did that he did not have the legal right to do. In this whole report that they issued, never did they say he was not a law-abiding gun owner with a permit to own such gun. And here in Alabama, where the gun lobby is really strong, you have a right, if you have a permit, to defend yourself or for the protection of others. E.J. Bradford was not involved in any altercation now that we see this video. In fact, when the confrontation first started, he had his back to the confrontation. When the shots rang out, he ran away, just like everybody else. They tracked how far he ran. 50 feet, he ran away. And then he looked around and saw that his friend, Brian Wilson, wasn't with him. That's when you see E.J. Bradford pulls out his gun and he turns around and starts going back towards where the shots rang out. We don't believe he ever saw the police and didn't even know they were there. And the police, by their own admission, say they never offered him any verbal commands. So they said they saw him, and in 2 seconds, they made a decision he was the shooter, and they shot him. The one officer 3 times, the other officer never pulled his trigger. You know we're going to get into that in the civil trial, but it's really important, Roland Martin, the fact that they issued no verbal commands and made this decision because E.J. Bradford was a law-abiding citizen, never been arrested once. Never, ever had he failed to disobey lawful commands given by police. But because they saw a black man and had a gun, never questioned the fact whether he was a gun owner who had a permit. They just saw black, they saw a gun, and they shot. And it is just so disrespectful to his family that they have not yet released the name of the police officer. Why are they protecting this officer so much?
I understand. Ben Crump, brother, I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Keep us updated on what goes on.
Will do, Roland. State of the Union tomorrow in Alabama.
All right, sir. Thanks so much. All right, folks, we have an update on the police killing of a security guard in a Chicago suburb. Jamil Robertson was subduing a man who had fired shots inside a Robbins, Illinois club. Robertson was wearing a vest with the word security on it. A police officer rolled onto the scene, told Robertson to drop his gun. When he didn't drop the gun he was licensed to carry, the cop shot and killed him. The cop, Ian Covey, is white. Some body cam footage just after the shooting was obtained by USA Today under a Freedom of Information request. Here's part of it as a different officer is confronted by another security guard at the club.
Because your man shot my man. Who did? The police shot security. That's what happened. That's all. And we getting shot. Okay. Stupid. Okay.
The family of Jamil Robertson has filed a federal lawsuit. The Illinois State Police are investigating the shooting and expect to have a final report in April. Real quick to our panel here. Again, you know, the NRA always talks about, you know, being armed, things along those lines. Reality is this. If you black with a gun, you do not get the benefit of the doubt.
No, we don't. And I mean, this is exactly what we've been talking about. You know, in a situation like this, a guy has on a secure. I mean, what more would the police need to identify someone and separate them from the crowd? You know, what more do you need? I don't know what kind of vest it was, but security. You know, they all look the same. So what more do you need to actually show that I'm actually legit? And this just goes to is how black bodies are devalued. I feel like this is, I feel like reading an Octavia Butler novel or something after this.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if you're not white, it's not right. So all these stories are hurting my heart right now. You know, it's just so back to back, you know, and it's like, what more can you do? How many more rallies? How many more protests, you know, do you do before we actually decide to really come together and start doing what they're saying we expected them to do? You know, and I'm not saying we need to go there. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But it's really getting to a point where, you know, all these reforms aren't working. And I'm unsure. Roland, what are we doing?
And I think, like you have earlier, we talked about Liam Neeson. That's somebody that does not have power, that admitted that he went out and was trying to target black people, right? These are people who have state-sanctioned power. They have a gun, and if there's something that's happened to them in their past, we don't know what they're dealing with, what kind of trauma they're placing on black folks, and that's not something that we should be having to carry the burden of.
Oh, and this is why I try to explain to people this is what it means when you're black in America. Okay, so you could talk about, oh, we're all the same and kumbaya. No, that ain't the case. You are treated differently when you're black in America. Now, folks, check this out. Imagine trying to get an education in a school where the use of the N-word and offensive terms like dirty Mexicans are commonplace. Now, this particular school district in Michigan is 91% white, less than 1% black. The ACLU of Michigan has filed a complaint against the entire Paw Paw, Michigan school district with the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. The complaint says they are maintaining a racially hostile educational environment. Joining us right now to discuss this is Mark Fancher, the Michigan ACLU's Racial Justice Project staff attorney who drafted the complaint. Mark, give us a sense of exactly what has been going on in this district and for how long.
Well, as far as we know, this is representative of the culture of not just the school district, but the city itself. What attracted our attention to the school district is an ongoing controversy, a high-profile one, involving the name that has been given to the high school's athletic teams. They use the racial slur Redskins, and there have been protests by Native Americans in the area over the course of a number of years. And these protests and these appeals and petitions to the school district to change the name have caused eruptions of violent and near-violent encounters in the school board meetings, harassment of activists, and ongoing controversies. We went in hoping that we might be able to speak with the school's leadership and to try and persuade them that they needed to consider not only changing the name of the team, but also engaging in a process of cultural sensitivity, tolerance and other measures that would be helpful to the school district overall. We never got so much as a polite response from the school district's leadership. They would not acknowledge even our requests to come in and to talk with them. So we went to the local clergy and suggested that they preach from the pulpit messages of tolerance. And we found that even among the clergy, there was a certain amount of intimidation, if not downright fear, of the reprisals and the retaliation that they would face for even voicing that type of a thing. That caused us to use the Freedom of Information Act to just find out what was happening in the district with respect to race. And what we got back was a large stack of school records and documents that related story after story of some of the most horrific kinds of racial discrimination, harassment, and bullying that we've seen in a number of school districts. A foreign exchange student being asked if she's a member of the Taliban, constant use of the N-word. One student approaching Mexican students and saying, Trump's in the house now, you need to go back to Mexico and pick blueberries. An adult who attended a school board meeting with the intent of voicing opposition to the Redskins name, who was punched in the face by someone who supported it. And so once we found that we were getting nowhere with respect to efforts to actually engage in dialogue, we felt we were left with no alternative but to go to the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights.
But here's the problem. When you say the Department of Office of Civil Rights, we're talking about Betsy DeVos.
That's correct.
They haven't shown they gave a damn about civil rights.
Oh, that's clear. But we have to play the hand that we're dealt with. The other alternative that we might have would be to file a lawsuit in court on behalf of victims of this type of discrimination. But honestly, we've not found anyone who is prepared to do that. That's the level of fear that exists in that community. Just stepping out and revealing your name as someone who opposes this is something that creates that level of fear. And, notwithstanding the politics of Betsy DeVos, it is our hope that the strength of the case itself will be one that will, at the very least, prompt an investigation by the Office for Civil Rights that can possibly lead to the discussion that we've wanted to have with school district leadership all along. And we may be able, through alternative means, to accomplish some of the things that we've hoped to accomplish.
All right, Mark Fancher, good luck with that. We're certainly glad to see you guys on the case.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your work.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, before we go, I could not bypass another Stuck on Stupid Person of the Week. Y'all have it ready? Y'all supposed to be playing. Damn it, you knew I was going to it. All right, y'all. No. Stop it. Y'all weren't ready. All right. So here's the deal, y'all. Here are two anchors on Fox News, actually 3 Fox News staffers, trying to explain why voters are in huge numbers in favor of collecting more taxes from the rich. Now press play.
There is what seems to be a movement against capitalism in this country. This is a piece in Politico just published, Soak the Rich. Americans say go for it. In this piece, it talks about how recent polling is showing that the American public is increasingly on board with raising taxes on the rich. As evidence, we pulled up this latest Fox News poll on the issue, whether Americans support raising taxes on the wealthy, on incomes over $10 million. Those that are in favor of that, 70%, Charles. Over $1 million in income, 65% are in favor of raising taxes.
The idea of fairness has been promoted in our schools for a long time, and we're starting to see kids who grew up in this notion that fairness above all. And now they're becoming voting age, and they're bringing this ideology with them.
Okay, y'all, their own poll shows 70%. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because even their audience, old white people, realize that the system in America is actually set up to benefit the rich in America.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that's it. I think when you ask anyone who would you rather raise taxes on, it's going to always be those who make lots of money. I don't think that it's not political, or it's not. This is, you're going to raise taxes on everybody but yourself. And I think this is an example of that. I'm not surprised.
But this whole idea of, they're teaching kids in school what's about fairness.
And the reality is that we used to do that as a country. We used to tax the very, very rich about 79 to 80%, right? This is something that we did, and this was when we actually had like strong economic growth that benefited most of the people in America, right? So like, yes, I hear what you're saying. People are going to say to tax everybody else, but this is something that works, that we've already tried, that we might as well go back to.
I think we got to understand some of the basis of financial literacy. So we need to take it back to education before anybody starts teaching anything, you know, because the first talking point for Democrats, especially the socialists, tax the rich. Well, you know, after we tax the rich, what happens, right? So I'm kind of on the other side as it relates to that, but
I think it also depends on how much, to what extent we're talking about.
But what's so hilarious is when you talk about a 70% marginal tax rate, it's after the first 10 million. Okay, we are not talking about a hell of a lot of people in America. We are not. Okay, so we're not. Okay, y'all, everybody at home, this is what that means. If you make 9.8 million. It's not going to affect you.
Yes.
Now, how many of y'all out there right now is making $9.8 million? Okay? It's after the first 10 million. The reality is, in this country, the tax code is set up for the rich. All the breaks, the rich. You just saw a $1.5 trillion tax cut, largely for the rich. Okay? Who gets over more in this country? Donald Trump knows real estate people because they can sit here and write out real estate losses for 20 years. Okay? Well, if you ain't got money, if you, like Trump, you can't go to Deutsche Bank and get $1 billion over a number of years, well, guess what? You can't run around buying buildings and properties and sitting here writing those losses off and you virtually paying no income tax and you banking all that money.
Yeah, you're right.
The system is not set up for anybody unless you are rich. And in this whole deal of this bullshit of, oh, no, see, they're going to take that money and they're going to reinvest. No, they're not. They're not going to sit here. We just saw with the tax cut. All of those companies. And the CEOs said it before they passed it. They said, we ain't reinvesting that money. And we ain't giving that money back to workers. We're going to reward shareholders. And that's exactly what they did.
But I just want to say that it's not, because we say rich, but I would actually add that I think it's people with access to whether it's power or information, because a lot of people, where you could be making $250,000 a year, that's not rich, but you could use you could finagle things as far as your finances is concerned and get a smaller
no, that's no doubt. But the point is,
but the rich will always benefit. Yeah, I mean, to that point,
greatly. And in that poll, when you see 70%, and let's be honest, the reason a lot of these television anchors also are like, oh my God, what are you doing that? Because
they're affected.
There you go.
But I think we should also say, I wonder if, that's a general poll. I don't think that it gave an actual number, but I wonder what number will people be comfortable with when they're talking about percentage-wise.
Dude, the number was 70%.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it was 70%.
It was 70%.
Okay.
They said over 10 million, right? If they wanted to hide something, they would have said, do you think the top marginal tax rate should be 70%? And then you could assume that,
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I know, even Fox News folks like, oh, hell yeah, tax they ass. All right, y'all, we got to go. I want to thank our panel for being here. Again, we want you guys to support RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I was going to take another day off. I'm trying to preserve my voice. As many of y'all realize, I'm allergic to smoke. Anytime cigarette smoke gets in my system, screws up my sinuses, chest congestion, cough. So I'm still battling that. Normally it takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks for that crap to get out of my system. And so it's been that case my entire life. But we're still here today. We're going to be, of course, live streaming. We don't care what Donald Trump is going to say. We're going to be live streaming Stacey Abrams' response, the first African-American giving a Democratic response to a presidential State of the Union. So we're going to have that for you as well. And tomorrow we'll have a full breakdown of the speech and what it means moving forward when it comes to policy. Also, guys, on Thursday, I'm going to be live streaming my interview with comedian Ali Sadiq. All right. This is a brother who spent time in prison. This is a brother who's one of the funniest cats out here. And let me tell y'all, I've interviewed a lot of people in my career. A lot of people in my career. This is one of the most intriguing, interesting, and fascinating interviews I've ever done. You don't want to miss that interview that we're going to have for you on Thursday. All right? Please go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to please join our Bring the Funk fan club. All of your dollars help to go support the show to make this thing possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, I got to go. Holla.